Okay, this is a 5-minute tarot for the 4th of March, 2017. I almost said 2007 there. Okay, so today's card is the moon, because somebody asked, what does the moon reversed mean? Or what do you do with the moon reversed? Okay, so if we look at the moon card, we've got this crayfish creature in the foreground. So it's a bit like that creature's about to begin a trip. It's about to begin moving from its own environment in the water onto the land. But somehow crayfish and crabs seem like ancient, prehistoric, unsophisticated, primitive creatures, right? They've got armor, protection, but they're easily attacked and easily beaten. So it's as if a crab could think, it probably is concerned about self-preservation and avoiding danger, that kind of thing. So it's kind of primitive and not that sophisticated, I would imagine. Okay, then we've got, on one side of the road, we've got the wolf, and the other side we've got a domesticated wolf. Apparently dogs began life as wolves, but they were domesticated. And so instead of being wild, they were more human-friendly. So we've got the wolf on the one side, which can represent, again, primitive. Wolves are intelligent, but it's a bit like basic survival mode that they're in, although they're friendly with other wolves. But on the other side of the road, you've got the dog. But dogs can be dangerous as well, even though they're man's best friend, and some breeds are domestic are friendly. You know, you get Doberman Pinschers as guard dogs, German Shepherds as a guard dog. Then you get pit bulls and so on. And even Chihuahuas can be really, really aggressive and hostile. So we've got the wild animal on one side, and we've got the supposedly not wild animal on the other. But you can get exceptions to the rule, and supposedly non-wild animals, certain kinds of dogs, can be really dangerous. And then further up the path, or further up the track, we've got 2 towers, and these look like watchtowers that were built by people. So people knew about the dangers of wild animals, but they didn't just build one watchtower. They built one on the other side of the road as well to watch out for the humans, or for the domesticated version of the wild animal. And then up in the sky, we've got the moon looking down on this. And it's easy to look at the moon and see the light and forget or never even realize that the moonlight is actually sunlight, but it's being reflected. So you've got this, with the moon and the moon card, you've got this, what's really going on? Are we dealing with the truth, which is the sunlight, or are we dealing with fantasy, which is the moonlight itself, that's only a reflected light? And that can be the challenge of the moon card. Can you distinguish between and judge correctly what's real and what's fantasy, what's fake? Because what's fake may not know that it's fantasy or fake. So can you separate what's going on into the appearance and the reality behind the appearance, and deal with the reality? Because fantasy isn't automatically bad. You know, take some fantasy novels, and they're a good read, and they're convincing, and they're entertaining. So there's nothing automatically wrong with fantasy. But so if you're a poet or an artist or a musician or a writer, fantasy can be good because it can give you an outlet for expressing a strange kind of reality, or something that will allow the viewer or the audience to relate to and understand primitive behavior, a state of survival mentality, that kind of thing. And it can be interesting and useful for somebody, or to have somebody point out the underlying, let's say, primitive needs and urges within people that if we ignore them, maybe they'll, or try and suppress them, maybe they'll redouble in strength and turn into a major problem instead of being something that really can be controlled if it's understood, the dark side of people. So not knowing the difference between fantasy and reality isn't a problem if you have a creative outlet, right? So if you think of artists and musicians who are sort of crazy, we can say, or who are haunted by demons and so on, but nevertheless, I mean, Mark Rothko, that's one of Mark Rothko's pictures behind me, and he was really quite driven and torn, and had it difficult. He escaped into alcohol and drugs and so on. So, but nevertheless, at the same time, he suffered personally, but he gave us great art. Okay, so fantasy and reality are not necessarily bad in themselves, but can you see the difference and recognize or make yourself deal with and relate to the truth behind the appearance? Because the moon represents appearance, and the challenge or the test can be, can you see the reality that's going on? And so the moon reversed can be somebody who either doesn't want to see or admit what's really going on and deal with it, or somebody who can't see the truth about the situation. I thought of something a moment ago, and I can't remember it. Can't remember. So I'll leave it for another video. So that kind of is, those are some points about what you're dealing with the moon card itself. You've got primitive urges and primitive, but maybe really old-fashioned, really past their time urges. But we're supposed to, or we're not supposed to, we make good use of it, or we're less damaged by it, or less controlled by the dark side of the moon, we could say. Sorry to Pink Floyd fans out there, but it's like when I say the dark side of the moon, I mean the darker, less civilized, less polished behavior that we are all capable of at different times. So maybe with the moon, we've all got a dark side in us. With the moon card, the person that if it's describing a person, it needs an outlet. If it's got a creative outlet, it's okay. If it doesn't have a creative outlet, it has to escape and pretend that it's not like that. So it escapes into fantasy and ignores reality. So there's something about the moon. So with the moon reverse, what do? I think what you do is you figure out the cause and don't get taken in by the effect. That's, what's his name? Eli Goldratt, who wrote the books on business. And he was a physicist, so he was big on cause and effect. So what you do is if you don't like the effect, the outcome, you don't try and change the outcome. You see what the cause was and make some changes there. So with the moon reversed, you have to understand and find the cause. And once you know the cause, you had to make some changes. If you can't make the changes, what do? You walk away, because you're going to keep getting the same effect. And if you don't like the effect, or you can't handle the effect, and you can't change the cause, then, walk away. Okay, that's enough of me for the moment. Tomorrow will be something else. Thank you very much for watching. And if you have comments, I've left out stuff, I'm sure. And I may add more later, or I may respond to comments if you have them. So thank you very much for watching. That was a bit longer than usual, but probably a single car tomorrow. Okay, bye-bye.